Okay, good noon to you. I'm Jonathan Bacon. I used to be Vince Miller, who is now the director of the Educational Technology Center. I've been looking at educational applications of augmented reality and have been kind of fascinated by it for quite some time. So, as a faculty member, suppose you could send your students into the field armed with a cell phone or a mobile device and enable them to explore an important location or objects while having instant access to supplemental information, on that particular site or object. Suppose there was a green way, a paperless approach to providing that information, so you didn't have to hand it out in class. Since 2008, I've followed the Horizon Report as it forecasts the instructional impact of new technologies, from mobile computing to Geo-Everything to simply augmented reality. The Horizon Report, produced by the New Media Consortium and EDUCAUSE, is published to identify and describe emerging technologies likely to have a large impact on teaching, learning, or creative expression within learning-focused organizations, in other words, colleges and universities like JCC. This year, the report suggests that one of the most prevalent uses of augmented reality is to annotate existing spaces with an overlay of information. Can you imagine instructional activities that could utilize a cell phone's ability to determine the location, the user's current location, with the ability to overlay information onto that location? In 2009, the Horizon Report forecasts that within 2 to 3 years, the camera and screen-enabled smartphones and other mobile devices could serve as the means to combine real-world data with virtual data. Using GPS capability and image recognition and a compass, AR applications, or augmented reality applications, can pinpoint where the mobile is pointing and overlay relevant information. The 2012 Horizon Report only mentions augmented reality once, but focuses more on mobile computing and tablets for the near-term adoption, and game-based learning for midterm or 2 to 3 year projected adoption. Those are all necessary components or possible implementations of augmented reality. The single mention of AR comes in conjunction with the University of Virginia's mobile computing app, and that was developed by Willow Tree Apps. In addition to weekly photos and sports scoreboards, a directory of students, information on admissions and that sort of information, the health center, health system, etc. The app includes a campus map that uses augmented reality that allows the users to, and I'm quoting here, search for buildings on grounds, use GPS to pinpoint your location, or use augmented reality to identify the building over there with the dome and the columns, end quote. The maps can also be personalized by the students or the users. So now it's 2012. The earlier Horizon reports have seemed to be right, on target. Early last year, I began doing some research trying to identify augmented reality applications that could be used in an educational setting and using mobile devices, primarily smartphones or tablets. And what I was really after was something that would enable the typical faculty member to create points of interest, or sometimes they're called tags, that are specific locations with supplemental information. I must confess that my earlier exploration was sidetracked by exploring geocaching, followed by waymarking before I stumbled on AR browsers, and specifically TagWhat, which is the one I want to talk about the most today. My search was really a way for faculty to use, I was looking for a way for faculty to use AR in out-of-classroom experiences and projects with minimal cost and complexity to both the student and the faculty member. TagWhat, an application from the Apple App Store and also available through the Android market, or I guess is now Google Game Play, is free, which I considered a key requirement for any application. By the way, just for clarity, geocaching is real-world outdoor treasure hunting. Players try to hide or locate hidden containers called geocaches using GPS-enabled technology or devices, and they share that experience online. And if you check out geocaching.com, you can get more details. The weakness I saw in the system was that each geocache includes swag, or stuff we all get, that is trade items left in the cache by the geocachers. So there's no way to be sure, as an instructor, what your students are going to find in that geocache. One person will come along, and I mean, you could leave XYZ object, whatever it may be, and with geocaching, the next person comes along, they leave something and take something. And what they leave doesn't have to have any bearing to what they took. So there's obviously no way to tell what the students are going to encounter when they get to the cache. Waymarking was a closer match in that it is, quote, a way to mark unique locations on the planet and give them a voice. Waymarking is the tool set for categorizing and adding unique information for a location. The goal is to give people the tools to help others share and discover unique and interesting locations on the planet, end quote. More information on waymarking is available at waymarking.com. While waymarking could be used in concept for a location-based educational search, it is limited in the tools available to use and relies more heavily on GPS coordinates. So it didn't quite seem to be quite the match. And frankly, about that time I also ran into the augmented reality browsers, and specifically TagWhat. TagWhat encourages creators to tell your story. You can create points of interest or tags. They prefer that tags be more than photos with captions because they really want each tag to have a narrative, to tell a story. Notice their tagline, which is the mobile encyclopedia of where you are. And you can see their screen, and I'll show you some more screens, but you can see on the cell phone there, the screen that lists tags which are within the close proximity. And you, by the way, can, if you look at the bottom of the screen there, you see you have a place to actually create your own tags, which is the nice thing. It has no cost. As a demo project, I began using TagWhat to create a JCC campus tour. I used an established TagWhat channel because there's no cost to add tags to an existing channel. Now you can buy a channel or a layer, which is another term you sometimes encounter. They have channels for art and books and education, which was formerly called class, events, food, heritage, movies, music, nature, science and technology, sports, and a recent edition of Wikipedia. The Wikipedia channel includes tags for locations mentioned in Wikipedia entries. Private channels, as I mentioned, are available at a cost, but I was really more interested in free access. So I created several tags for the JCC campus on the free Heritage channel. Here you see my TagWhat account with 3 of several published tags. When you create a tag prior to submitting it, it has a status of draft. Once you submit it for review, it's, quote, in review. Once the TagWhat team looks at it and approves it, then it becomes published. And by the way, you're notified when a tag is published, so it's not a mystery to you. To use TagWhat, your students must install it on their mobile device. After starting the app, it determines your location and then displays thumbnails of all published tags within range. Even from my home, the closest tag is 2.68 miles. Now from here, The closest tag is quite a bit less than that. What's interesting is that when I first did this, JCC had the first 5 tags in the area. There were no other tags. You can see now that there have been at least some other schools and enterprises open up and create the tags. When you scroll down, and by the way, I'm duplicating the home screen over there, and this is really what you would see is just on the right-hand side. You see tags that are further away, and you can see the location, the miles away changes on the top of the screen as you scroll down. And you can see the furthest away tag is 93.31 miles. When I looked here from campus, the furthest one is about 10 or 11 miles. And I think it probably has something to do with Wi-Fi versus cell phone connectivity and everything else. So there's some variation on how far away you can actually see devices, but you can't see them on the coasts, that much I know. Let's return to the closer tags and examine one in more depth. On the JCC campus, or for several miles away, you'll see the building tags I created with related photos and links, one each for, and you see starting at the upper left-hand corner, the Carlson Center, the Billington Library, Student Center, the Gymnasium, and the Red Barn. At the bottom of the screen, you can see the controls, where you can basically select and see what's nearby. That's the option that's selected right now. You can see featured sites, which typically are commercial enterprises. And you can select channels and actually determine which channels you want to see. So you can turn off everything but 1 or 2 or 5 channels. You can see what you want. So let's look specifically at the Red Barn JCC campus tag. Once you see a tag for a site that interests you, simply touch it and TagWhat displays more data. And this information is put in by the user, by the one who actually created the site. The additional information includes text. You can swipe up or down to see more, and you can see it's faded at the bottom, so that means there's additional text that can be swiped down to view. Has a photo, a channel name, and a directional indicator pointing to the direction of the barn or the item in this case, the site in this case, and sometimes links for email or to a related website. And you can see the web I've highlighted or identified or labeled the web link. If you have additional information, you can swipe more from right to left to see those additional pages. If you were to swipe from right to left on this one, you'd go to the second page, which talks about the barn and the windmill, and has information from the Campus Ledger student newspaper back a number of years. Swipe again, and you have yet another page, and you can have up to 6 of these all total, talking about the Equine Studies program that was housed in the barn at one point in time. Swipe again, and here's information on the barn's hex sign that was painted by Linda Carlson, who was the wife of a former president of the college. And this particular screen actually has some video, and you can tell that there's video that can be played by the play button that is in the middle of the image. If you swipe again, you get to the very last page in this case, and it's a view of the barn in 2011. You can report issues, problems with the site, but what's more interesting, I think, from an educational standpoint is the share button. If you click that share, you can share the story with your friends, and literally it sends an email postcard. When you receive the postcard, it looks something like this. It basically would come in your email account. It has an image of the site, that in this case the Red Barn, text on the right-hand side. It also has a map at the bottom so people can identify the location. And the second line from the top says, just visit the old barn on JCC campus, lots of history here. That's a personalized message that I added in when I went to the site and sent it. I was thinking that this could be used as a method for the instructor to verify that the student has gone to the site, or at bare minimum, gone through and paged through the pages. I mean, there's no guarantee the person has read it. They could flip through and send the postcard, but at least you have a fighting chance then that the student might actually read the information relative to that particular site. To publish one or more tags, you first establish a free account with TagWhat, and then you complete an online form for each tag. The form prompts you for a title, and I don't know if you can see from where you're sitting, but the title, the tag title can be up to 96 characters, the description up to 1,024 characters. You can add media, that's the main page media, and add up to 64 characters of an attribution. You select the channel. In the case of the JCC ones, I made it all heritage channel. And then you have the ability to add up to 6 additional media items, and those were the additional pages that I was showing you. Those media items can include, oh, and by the way, the images, they ask you to make them at least 320 by 320 pixels. But they can take some that are somewhat larger. When you add a media item, you have basically a title, description, the keywords, and the attribution again. And you can enter and edit the particular image that you're adding. There are also, if you notice at the very bottom of that earlier page, there's a location where you can add an action item. And an action item can be anything from a number to call, a phone number, an email address, a SMS number to launch, a web address, and on the JCC one I've often used the JCC's homepage, or like on the Carlson Center I used the link for the Performing Arts Center. If we go, let me jump back here just for a couple and just show this to you again. If you notice in the upper right hand corner you'll see a tag location. When you click on that, it defaults to Boulder, Colorado. You can type in, which I assume is where TagWhat is headquartered, or at least where they started. You can type in a zip code. You can also type in a complete address to get it as specific as you want. There's the ability to overlay a satellite map, and so when I was working with the tags for JCC, I was able to actually see the campus and move the little location marker to as specific a location as I could. When finished, you submit each tag for publication and approval before it's posted. It's not unusual for the TagWhat staff to offer suggestions to improve your story, to correct misspellings, and in other ways to add media to enhance the narrative. So I found them very helpful. I don't know how much, as it grows, I don't know how much that will continue. They may get to the point where routinely they just simply approve them, but at least when I was building these, I got a lot of suggestions. So, TagWhat can be a free, easy tool for faculty to annotate historic sites, provide campus tours, create local game sets in real-life neighborhoods and ecological habitats, provide supplemental information on architectural structures, historic sites, art objects, or even geological formations. Anything that is stationary, even for a time, can be tagged. Well, I was thinking, let's be more specific. And I didn't think of something for paralegal, but I'm sure if we thought about it long enough, we could come up with something for paralegal. But more specifically, some of the areas in which I see this is, clearly if you're doing architectural, different styles of buildings, different styles of columns, whatever it may be, architectural features, you could literally tag buildings that have that information. You could tag firms, which are key architectural firms in the area. Campus orientation is the easy one. You can tag, whoops, wrong way. You can tag buildings and offices and actually link functions to different offices, admissions and records, a library, checking out online access, things of that sort. I thought about, even in childhood education, I know frequently there are exhibits in libraries of books and literature that deal with childhood education, field trips that are appropriate for school-aged kids or even preschool. In the fashion area, and in many of these areas, historic exhibits or buildings, exhibits that are maybe even short-term, like even the Titanic exhibit downtown, even though it's there for a short period of time, could in fact be tagged and then removed once that's over with. If you had a class in the fine arts area and you wanted students to attend lectures or attend so many concerts, those venues could be tagged. And it goes on and on. Geology, graphic design. I thought an interesting one would be if I know there are a few buildings in the area that have kind of permanent graffiti or permanent artwork on the side, and it would be interesting to get your students to go and see those sites, to be able to tag them and direct them there. The historic is the easiest. I mean, if you do a Google search of KC historic sites or Civil War sites, you get a nice long list, or even Kansas City's fountains. The art objects, sculptures would be an easy one to do. And even hospitality management or chef apprenticeship, different key restaurants that maybe you want your students to visit, want them to evaluate the menu, or even suppliers that you want them to be familiar with. I had meant to look it up. I can't think of the name of it. There's a site that I just stumbled across that deals with fiction and all the characters, all the locations. I mean, you can basically go and do a search, and it will give you all the, well, for instance, you could say Kansas City, and it would bring up a list of all the novels that have been written about Kansas City or have Kansas City as a setting. So in literature, that kind of thing, you could locate local sites that you want your students to visit that deal with authors or fiction or even nonfiction. And the same with political science, polling events, campaign stops, polling places, I should say, or political events. So what would you use for paralegal?
The obvious ones that pop in would be visit court, tag where the courts are located, where major law firms are located, law libraries, perhaps significant legal events.
Yeah,
go over the old St. Louis courthouse. Of course they had, can't even think of the name right now, but a famous slavery case.
So I do want to point out that there are other AR or augmented reality browsers. Probably the first one that came along was Layer. And I like Layer. Let's see if I can switch over and just show you just a little here. Oh, before I leave that, I do want to point out each of the tags do actually have a corresponding web page. So if you wanted to create a tag and then have your students go there, they would see a page similar to this. And when your tag is published, it gives you that TagWhat URL for your students to go to it. And further, if I scroll down here, you see this particular tag has 2 images. The second one is of the tires left, what's the name of it? I can't think of it. Oh, the Tired Beast, which is done by a student here that at least was over by the gymnasium. I haven't been over that way for a few weeks, so I don't know if it's still there or not. But so you have that ability too, as well as the map to get directions to that particular site. I guess I didn't bring up Layer, so let me bring that up real quick. Well, that's not it. You do need to spell correctly. Yeah. Okay, so Layer has, it will pick up QR codes. It will also show you sites that people have created layers for. It was a little more complex when I first investigated it. It was the very first one, and you can create your own layer, but you usually have to work through a third party who wants to charge you money. Another one is Scavenger, and this looked rather fascinating to me. In fact, I just want to play you a little bit here of how to play Scavenger, and it is an augmented reality browser. You can go in and create your own tags or points of interest, and so let me just show you this. Major bummer, can't be played with the current setup. Oh well.
Tried an Internet Explorer.
Oh, okay.
For some reason that makes a difference on this machine.
Okay, well that's right, I'm in Firefox, so it may not have the plugin installed for it. And we'll go. Okay.
My name is Seth Freebash, and I'm here to tell you a bit about Scavenger. Scavenger is a game, and playing is easy. Just go places, do challenges, and earn points. You'll discover cool new spots, share where you are and what you're up to with your friends on Facebook and Twitter, and unlock awesome real-world rewards, like free coffee at your favorite cafe, or half off of your meal. Let's see how it works. When you load up the Scavenger app, it'll show you places nearby. I'm here at Boca Grande, so I'm going to select that. At each place, there are things to do called challenges. Challenges are quick, fun things to do, kind of like a check-in, but they go way beyond just hitting a button. You'll see that the first thing you can do at each place is check-in, and Scavenger makes sharing these check-ins out to Facebook and Twitter really, really easy. But beyond the check-in, there are tons of other things you can do. Things like the social check-in, where you bump phones with your friends and get 2 points times the number of people you do it with, or snapping a picture, or any of these other challenges that people who've been here have created for us to do. There's this fun one here called tinfoil origami, so I'm going to select that. This challenge is going to ask me for 4 points to carefully unwrap the tinfoil from my burrito, fold it up into an origami sculpture, and snap a picture of my creation for 4 points. So I could do that, earn a couple points, and also see what everyone else who's been here has been up to. You can see that I've checked in, but also all the other fun challenges that people have been doing here at Boca Grande. But that's just the beginning of playing Scavenger. There's a lot more you can do. One of the most interesting parts of Scavenger is this thing we call a reward. A reward is a free thing that you unlock at places by earning points. Things like a free mini burrito or 15% off of your meal. As you do challenges at each place, you'll earn points and you'll fill up progress bars towards unlocking rewards, like a free mini burrito, where once I've got 3 points here, I can unlock this reward, show it to the cashier, and get a free burrito at Boca Grande. But as you can see, I've only got 1 out of 3 points necessary to get this free burrito, so let's see if we can change that. So I'm going to go back to the Challenges tab, and maybe I've come back here on a different day, or I just want to do slightly more things here at Boca Grande, and I'm just going to click on Say Something. Here's an easy challenge to do. Try the delicious smoothies. Do that, and this is the 3rd point I've earned, so you can see I've unlocked a free mini burrito. Sweet indeed. And then, of course, I can see what else is going on here, or post out to Facebook or post to Twitter. Now we'll go back to the Info tab, and we'll see that I've got 3 out of 3 points to unlock my free mini burrito. And when I'm ready, just hit grab this reward. Yes, I'm ready to use it. Now all I have to do is bring up my phone, show this screen to the cashier. They'll verify that this is a legitimate reward, and hand me my free burrito. And that is what playing Scavenger is all about. Go places, do challenges, earn points, have fun and share with your friends, and unlock awesome rewards.
The one thing that I really liked about Scavenger that they really didn't talk about here is that you can actually create a trek. And this is where I can see it having educational application, where you simply take a series of challenges and or rewards and you create a trek. So it's a path that people, your students, would need to follow. And so all those applications we talked about with TagWhat, you know, going to certain locations, reading certain things, doing certain things, attend a concert. You know, for instance, if you require 5 concerts to be attended by your students, you could create a challenge where they would go in, take a snapshot of it using Scavenger. They get so many points for it, and at the very end they get a reward, which is they get a good grade. So, you could even use it to give awards, like 10% off a credit hour. Who knows? Anything's possible. But I like, again, the idea that it's mobile. You literally can go to different sites, and you can add both a challenge, something for them to do, as well as a reward for that. Let me switch back here. Wikitude is the other one, and it is tied in with Facebook, and I haven't really had a chance to really explore it as much as I'd like to, but I'm just mentioning it so you're aware of this option. If you look at the screen, you can see that with Wikitude you have pop up these little balloons, and there are different balloons that show up. For instance, it will capture tweets, it'll capture Wikipedia sites, it'll capture a number of things, each with a different icon, so that when you go in, it will actually, you can select which one you want to pursue. And you can turn them off and on, just like channels. So if you don't want to see all the tweets from the people in the area where you are, you can turn those off. But same principle. The nice thing with Wikitude also is that it is free, and you can create what's called My World. And My World would be those tags that you would then share with students in your class, and you can share them through Facebook too. So it's not just the application, but it can also be shared through Facebook. So that's just quick on Layer, Scavenger, and Wikitude, and a little bit more in depth on TagWhat. I still like TagWhat. The only thing I don't like about TagWhat is some of the other AR browsers, your camera actually shows you what's in front of you, and then you see the floating tag. With TagWhat, you simply see a screen full of tags. And I almost like the other approach better, where you're literally seeing what's in front of you and the tag that floats, and you can simply click or press to get more detail. So, okay, that's everything I know about AR. But I'll be happy to answer your questions.
Well, I think that the last thing you said there about having the actual view of reality in front of you with the tags, that to me that's always seemed powerful.
Yeah.
That you could be somewhere and maybe have an overlay of some historical view on the present thing that you're seeing,
Right.
and how powerful that would be to students to see that something maybe that's in a ruins now, that what did it used to look like?
Yeah. Jay?
And I'm most interested in the last one you mentioned, because the problem is that some of the students have smartphones that can do this and others don't. So if you make it an extra credit, how do you accommodate the other ones? And I think
Yeah.
you mentioned on this last one that it's Facebook friendly, so anyone who has access to Facebook would be able to still do it.
Right. TagWhat, you'd be able to send them to a web page.
Oh, okay.
But it's still it's not as prolific as Facebook. I mean, so many kids are on Facebook. It's a more common meeting ground. So.
And it would be nice if Google or somebody would swoop in and do an aggregation of all these different tools that you've talked about, because you've kind of got silos now with some TagWhat tags and some layer tags, and it'd be nice if there was a way to see all of those contributions in one place. So.
I think the middle one sounded interesting with the challenges, the activities, the scavenger, that's what it was. I haven't seen that one. And that sounded interesting because it gives them something active to do while they're there. They're not just reading. Challenge, I think, would be to come up with meaningful, other than your burrito foil.
Yeah.
And
Well,
something,
I was just going to say, I mean, literally you can say it increases your point by, your grade by X points when you complete all these. I mean, you could build in rewards that would be tied in with the grade.
Right.
And that makes a lot of sense to me. So.
Right. They can show you on their phone that,
Right.
that the
Right.
reward, and you go and record it in your grade book.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and I'm going back to one of the things you said about you may not be able to prove that they went to the location. So do any of these apps have that ability to do sort of a GPS check-in where you would have to show that I was coordinated here and you were close to the actual object?
Well, the closest would be, I mean, like Scavenger could, in the sense that you could send a photo of that location, and it's within Scavenger that you basically capture that image. So if you're not there and you're not using Scavenger, then you wouldn't be able to complete the assignment. You do then have the opposing dilemma that Jay talked about, in that not everybody has a smartphone. Many of them, I mean, they're using the GPS capability within the phone, but many of them don't require you to put in coordinates or to verify coordinates, simply because it makes it so much user friendly. So they, where some of the early apps on the smartphones, you literally had to know the GPS location and plug it in for every tag you created. And of course, then there's a whole another set of applications that told you what the coordinates were, so you had to jump from one to the other to get it done. So.
Well, and with the TagWhat, you mentioned that they have to vet that and then approve it. Is that if you're a user or a student and you're looking at something that's already been published, can you comment or give any kind of input without having to go through that process? Or
well, you can send that report on the very last page. Remember, there's a share and a report. The report actually would go to the person who authored the tag, and so that is a way you could communicate with them. The other, obviously, if you're really wanting a verification, the better way is to use the postcard, where the student can actually put in a comment and send it to you.
yeah.
But again, the dilemma is they can do that from anywhere. They don't have to. I mean, as long as they're within 10 to 90 miles of the site, they can actually, send you the postcard.
So there's, obviously, if a faculty member were motivated enough, they could go out and develop their own content, but there's probably enough there that they could also simply put together something with what's already out there.
I was really looking at something that would be fairly simple for a faculty member to create from scratch their own points. I mean, there are some out there, but I'm not sure. It's like anything, it's not as personalized as the instructor probably would want it to be.
And we have I'm sure you know, an initiative on campus to put some QR code signs out there. And I'm thinking that this could integrate with the augmented reality somehow, do the scan that and then.
Scavenger actually works with QR codes also.
Okay.
I don't think that TagWhat, I haven't run into where TagWhat would work with QR codes, but Scavenger does for sure.
It's good to know.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions or comments or?